headset is an integral part of your bike which allows you to steer smoothly and brake with confidence. And yet it's all too often overlooked until it needs premature replacement or it needs smashing out of your frame because the bearings are corroded in. Welcome to Two to Bike, where I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to grease your headset. You might be thinking, my headset's sealed, so there's no point. Unfortunately, you'd be mistaken. Getting some good quality grease around the bearings in any type of headset increases its service life and reduces the need to use undue force to get it back out when it needs replacing or servicing. Compare this to using silicone in a bathroom. This could save your frame from being permanently damaged. So buckle your toe straps, let's jump straight into it right now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drop the wheel out of the bike, and then we're going to get a toe strap and wrap that underneath the fork crown and over the down tube, and then get a rag behind it so that the buckle doesn't scratch the frame. This will just stop the forks dropping on the ground when we undo the stem. The next thing you want to do is undo the top cap and take the top cap and the screw and put that on the bench. And then you want to loosen off the two screws for the handlebar stem, and then pull the handlebar stem and handlebars off the top of the forks and just let them hang in front of the bike. Then remove the spacers that were underneath the handlebar stem if there was any. Get yourself a mallet, don't use a hammer for this, and just give the top of the fork steerer a light tap, and this will just allow the forks to drop down out of the headset. Get the stem and put it back on top of the fork steerer, but just put it up near the top, basically so maybe you can just clamp it up with one bolt. Give yourself enough room to move the forks up and down. Pull the stem up so it pulls up the top part of the headset just to release it, and then lower the forks down by undoing the toe strap. Now if the bottom bearing doesn't slide down with the crown, you just want to get something pokey in there and just like prise it out lightly. Don't use too much force. You can see there isn't much grease in here, but at least it's not the white lithium stuff that you see for sale in the whole bike industry. Do yourself a favor and use a high performance bearing grease like this one here. It'll last longer and actually keep the water out. Let's get a load of grease in here, and don't be frugal. Any excess grease that squirts out when we push the forks back in, you can just wipe off and put in your tub of grease on your bench. Lift the seal from the crown and then squirt it in underneath so it covers the crown, and smear it all the way round. If you don't have a grease gun, just put a dollop on your finger and smear it all the way around the crown. Push the seal down and apply some more grease all the way around, and then push the bearing down onto that. And then you want to apply some more grease to the top of the bearing, pretty much so you can't see it, and then just smear that down with your finger so the bearing is all encased in grease. Either tighten the toe strap back up or refit and pull it up so that the bearing goes into the bottom of the forks, and now you've got access to do the top bearing. Undo the stem bolts and take the stem off and just let the handlebars hang freely in front of the bike again. You should now be able to remove the top part of your headset and put it on your bench in an orderly fashion so that you can put it back together in the same order. Again, get something pokey so that you can get the bearing out like you did on the bottom cup, and you may have to just drop the forks by loosening the toe strap a little bit to give you better access. And then you want to do exactly the same as what you did for the bottom bearing set. Just squirt some grease into the cup, put the bearing back in, squirt a load more grease on that, and then smear it into the bearing, and then refit all the parts that you took off the top in the same order that they came off on, making sure that you put a smear of grease on all of those as you put them back in. This will give it much more protection from water. And then you want to pull the forks back up if you have had to lower them, and then you want to get your spacers and put them back on, refit the stem to the top of the handlebars, and then you want to get your top cap and your screw, and I always put a big dollop of grease on the screw thread, enough so that it also squishes out when you get the chamfer of the bolt and the top cap together. Don't tighten it up yet. You want to just check that the seal on the bottom crown race is in place and the bearing is sitting in place before you get it right up inside the bottom cup. Don't overdo it because it can damage the bearings and or the races, and you just want to tighten it up until it gets firm, and then we can check it for play. You want to remove the toe strap, wipe away any big lumps of grease with your finger, and then just put it into the grease tub on your bench, and then get a rag and give it another further wipe down. There's no need to go crazy. We just don't want to be dragging bits of grease across the bike while we're doing all these other jobs. And then you want to grab the handlebar stem and the top of the fork blade and just rock it backwards and forwards to see if there's any play in it. And if it's pretty close, just tighten up one of the clamp bolts and then check it again. And if it's still got a bit of play in it, then you want to just undo that clamp bolt, tighten it up a little bit at a time, and just check until you find that it's got no play in it when you grab the handlebars and the forks and rock it backwards and forwards, but it also turns smoothly. Get the wheel back in the forks and line up the stem so it's relatively straight with the wheel. Now just snip up the 2 clamp bolts. Don't go mad now, because we're going to line it up properly and adjust any play when we get it on the ground, because that's the only place to really tell if it's got play in it or not. We're approaching the end of this stage on headsets. If you've had any aha moments, drop it in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your friends. And I'll see you in stage 3 when we'll be taking on the bottom bracket.